Hello everyone, I'm Pierrette and this is my kitchen. Today we are going to make guacamole. I don't know if you saw the previous video where we did carnitas, but this is an excellent accompaniment to your carnitas, or it's a great appetizer with some chips or pieces of cucumber if you were cutting carbs at all. So today we are going to start with a serving. It's supposed to be for 4, but it may not last that long. I always notice that this goes really, really fast. So first thing we're going to do is cut our avocados in half. And for this, I do tend to use a smaller knife. I frequently love my big cleaver type knife, but for this, I always use a smaller knife. It just seems to work its way around the avocado pits a little better. So we have 4 avocados that we've now cut in half, and I'm going to scoop out the middles into our bowl. And I'm using a flat bottom bowl for a reason, and I'll show you in just a couple of minutes. So these are just perfectly ripe, and as you can see, the avocado just scoops right out of the middle very, very easily, very, very cleanly. Make sure that you get as much as you can. You don't want to waste it. Now this part's important, and I wish I had known this before I severed the nerve in my finger holding the avocado pit and trying to stab the pit. Instead, I stabbed my finger. That was not fun. That was about 20 years ago. And ever since then, people are always like, oh, did you not know that you can karate chop it? Well, I know that now. I wish I'd known that before, but I didn't. So to be safe, I don't even hold it in my hand. I just give it a little chop and a quick rotate. And then I use the cutting board to release the pit from the knife. So I'll show you that one more time. Very light karate chop, just enough that it catches the pit. And then I slide the knife. Let's see if you can see that. There you go. Slide the knife across the edge of the cutting board to release the pit. And that always seems to work very, very well for me. Much better than holding it in your hand and trying to amputate your own finger. It's a joke, it wasn't that bad, but it did take quite a long time before the sensation and my finger came back. And surgery, it needed surgery, which was not fun. I don't recommend it. Okay, so we have 4 full avocados, and we're just gonna give these a quick mash. Ooh, these are so ripe that they almost don't even want to come loose. Next step, potato masher of some form. And we are not going to make these super fine. This is a very, very rough mash. Basically, I'm hitting each avocado half once. So this is a very, very chunky mixture because these are ripe enough that they are going to mix up beautifully, and they will break apart a little bit more as we add our other ingredients. So that's where we are right now. You can see it's a pretty rough mash of our avocados. I have here 3/4 of a cup of tomatoes, and if you've watched my other videos, you know that I don't generally measure, so I kind of try to guesstimate for you guys. And you know, there's always the matter of personal. I'm leaving the juice of the tomato inside, so try to let them sit a little bit and leave that so the juice separates a bit. Otherwise, your guacamole will be a little more runny. I was saying that everyone has individual preferences, and you may or may not like, for instance, red onion. Now, I made sure to chop this very, very fine, as finely as I could. The pieces, most of them are probably 1/8 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch. So I do personally like that punch in the guacamole, but you may not like that. So maybe instead try a sweet onion, like a Vidalia onion, and see if you like that better, or you can cut back on the amount of onion. This again is about 3/4 of a cup, And I'm not going to use all of this, actually. I'm going to use about a half. So I would say that would make it about 1/3 of a cup of red onion for the recipe. And we can always add more. We're going to start with some salt. We're only doing 4 avocados, so I'm going to do 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which is very challenging when you have a short spoon and a long container. So about 1/2 teaspoon of salt, that looks about right. And a sprinkle of white pepper. Personally, when I'm using cayenne pepper, which we are going to use, I like to use white pepper with that because I would rather that the cayenne pepper be the star than black pepper. So we're going to use a little bit of white pepper just to give it a little bit of a mellow kick, but not so much that it takes over the flavor of the entire recipe. And I am going to go ahead and do a full teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Oh, maybe not. We'll go with 1/2. That looks about right. And we're going to go with a full teaspoon of garlic. Actually, let's do 2. And Worcestershire sauce. Now this I need to kind of guesstimate my measure, and then I'll taste it and let you know if I end up adding a little bit more. So we're going to start with a teaspoon. And I would say we're going to do 1.5 teaspoons. I think that will be plenty. If you put too much Worcestershire, it changes the flavor too much, and it's also not going, it's going to make your avocados kind of gray, which is not pretty. You still want them to be bright green. Typically with guacamole, you would use a lime, but I prefer the taste of the lemon, and it accomplishes the same thing, which is to keep your guacamole from turning brown. So putting a little bit of citrus in there keeps it from turning brown or discoloring quite as quickly. When you store it, when you store it, it is best to cover it with saran wrap and then press the saran wrap into all of the corners before you put your lid on. You don't want any air touching the surface of the guacamole. It will make it brown more quickly. Putting that layer of saran wrap in there will help it to stay a little more green throughout the process. So I'm going to add the juice of 1/2 of this lemon, and I may end up adding a little bit more. I'll taste it and let you know. So we're just going to mix this up. And some people like to add cilantro. I personally don't care for the taste of cilantro. I guess I'm one of those people to whom it tastes like soap, and I am not a big fan of soapy guacamole. So if you want to add cilantro, this is where you would do that, and in a quantity that you're comfortable with. I personally prefer it without. So this looks pretty good. It smells pretty good. I'm just going to take a quick taste. That's about perfect. And I did dip my spoon back in, so I guess that means that this whole batch is for me. Don't tell. All right. I guess that's it for today. I'm going to review the recipe with you really fast. We did 4 avocados, which we mashed lightly with the masher. I did 3/4 cup of diced tomatoes. I used Campari because these are nice and red right now this time of year, but you can use whatever works, whether they're grape tomatoes or the big tomatoes. Try to find tomatoes that are nice and rich red in color because it's going to intensify the flavor in your food. We did 1/3 cup of red onion diced very finely, did 1 teaspoon of salt, a sprinkle of white pepper, 2 teaspoons of garlic, 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, no, half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and then Worcestershire sauce. We added 1.5 teaspoons. And I think that's it. Oh, and the juice of a half a lemon. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. I hope that you try the Carnitas recipe as well as these, because it's a beautiful combination together. So you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening. I hope that you'll subscribe at the end of our video, and we'll see you soon.